Faith with Alex Bryant. It's Tuesday, terrific Tuesday, February 18th. You guys are probably sitting at home waiting for the snowmageddon if you live here in the Springfield area. I always think it's interesting. They tell us, oh, yeah, we're going to get 12 to 16 inches of snow. I don't believe it. Sorry, Natalie Nunn. Sorry, all of you weather people. I don't believe it. I don't think. Here, we live in Missouri. Whenever you say we're going to get 12 to 16 inches of snow, if we get 2 to 4 inches, I'm surprised. We might not get any. Well, that's not true. I saw some snow flurries when I was on the way in. Frizz, did you see any snow flurries on your way in, my friend? No mic? All right, no. So you just got to yell then. All right, no mic for Frizz. But anyway, I don't know. We'll probably get some snow, but 12 to 16 inches, come on, man, please. School's already canceled. As soon as the weather people said, oh, we're going to get some snow, 12 to 16 inches, like the whole state shut down. They're like, oh, wait. 5 days early, we're going to shut down. I don't believe it. And besides, I don't want my little knucklehead kids at home with me bothering me all day. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, just teasing about that. But anyway, Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant. We do have a good show ahead of us. Let me just give you the rundown. We're going to start by giving some thoughts on DOGE, baby. What's the big deal with DOGE? We got Elon Musk who's handling business over there. So, people are. They're up in arms. I mean, they are all up in arms. Everyone's talking about it. And I got some thoughts on that. But also, right now as we speak, we have a U.S. delegation that is they're over in in Europe, the Middle East. They're trying to negotiate. They're in Saudi Arabia, actually. They're trying to negotiate an end to the Ukraine war, meeting with Putin's people over there. I got some thoughts on that. We'll give you some details on that. We got an interview with Kelly Byrne. He is running for Springfield School Board, and so he's going to be joining us on Frontline Faith. And at around 10-ish or so, State Senator Curtis Trent, he's going to join us. He's making some moves up there in Jefferson City. We got some things that he's working on, and he's going to join us. We'll have an interesting interview with him. We got some top stories to go over. Reciprocal tariffs. That's been on the horizon all weekend. Everybody's wondering how's Trump going to use these tariffs. The Social Security anomaly. That's to say the least. Anomaly is to say the least. We're getting cheated, frauded out of trillions of our money, yours and my taxpayer dollars, and I got some thoughts on it. We're going to talk about that in our top 3 stories. And then the USA versus Canada in hockey. Yeah, I said it, Frizz. Hockey. I absolutely have a hockey story. I put it in there just for you, Frizzinator. We'll talk about that. And then we'll end this show, as we always do, with what people are talking about. That's what's up. I was going to start the show by giving you some thoughts on DOGE, but I do understand. We got Kelly Byrne. Is he with us already? I say we just go to the interesting interview. We have Kelly Byrne. He's running for school, but he's a Springfield School Board member, and he's joining us. Let's dive into that. Let's bring that joker on with
interesting interviews.
All right, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kelly Byrne. He is a Springfield School Board member, and he is just finished a 3-year term, and he's crazy enough to run for another 3 years. Kelly, welcome to Frontline Faith. How you doing this morning, my friend?
Hey, good morning. Did you just call me a joker?
It is. So, well, it's good to have you here, joining us over here. Let's dive into this. You are on the Springfield School Board. You finished your first term, and now you're up for re-election, and you want to serve again. Tell us again. Tell the people on Frontline Faith, why are you running for school board? Why are you on it? What's the motivation?
Yeah, so like you just mentioned, I'm finishing my first 3-year term, and I've learned a lot in that time. And when I originally ran the first go around, I was what you'd call an outsider. I'd not done anything politically, certainly never run a campaign. I had 2 kids in the school district, saw some things that I thought could be improved, and was very surprised when I started learning and digging in and seeing that kind of the makeup of our school board, that there wasn't a lot of representation from the business community. And that really surprised me in Springfield. I thought we had a pretty robust business community, and I expected to see some CEOs, CFOs, some accountants, and anything like that, and that just wasn't the case. So I thought, well, if no one's going to do it, I'll do it. God's blessed me with the flexibility of schedule, and not having a boss to have to worry about upsetting or anything like that. So I thought, hey, I'll give it a shot. I ran once. I actually lost narrowly in the first run. Thought about it, ran a second time and won pretty easily the second time. So now you fast forward 3 years later, and quite honestly, from when I first looked at the board, it's changed even more. I remain really the only one with a business perspective on the board. Steve McCoskey is certainly comes out of that world, but he's vacating his seat, so I'm kind of the last man standing here. And I think that perspective is really important on this board at this time for a number of reasons, but particularly at this time with a lot of the challenges that we have ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was running for Congress, you were, running for school board. I didn't realize at the time how big of a commitment it is, how much it costs you. I mean, and I'm not asking you to, give money, but people don't understand. Like, you literally are paying to be on the school board. I'm on the Nixa school board. It costs you money. It costs you your time, your resources. I love it. Really, truly is. You are serving the people, and that's really what it comes down to. And it's kind of a headache. You guys here in Springfield, you guys got more headaches than us in Nixa. We're on easy street, baby, compared to what the craziness going on in Nixa. But you, as a businessman, you felt that it was important to have that business mind. And I want to dive into some of the issues that you're running on. But tell us, and I'm not asking you to give the sob story, the whiny thing, because you do it obviously because you want to. But does it cost you something to be on the school board? I mean, does it cost you a little bit?
Well, yeah. So it's gotten nuts, and I mean, I guess I can give you how much time do we have? How much detail do I need to go into?
You got time? Go for it, man. I brought you in on early, man. You take as much. This is Frontline Faith. This isn't the radio where you get 8 minutes. So you got some time, man. Break it down.
That's what I hope for. I like the long format. That's good. So when I first, like before I ran for the first time, it was a really almost sort of predictable, controlled process. You wouldn't need to raise any more than, I mean, $5,000 probably would have been a lot to run a campaign. And you had two major endorsers in town. You had the Chamber of Commerce, and you had the largest teacher union, the SNEA. And if you ran and you got those two endorsements, then you pretty much were a lock. And they had a pretty robust track record of those two endorsers picking the winners. There's just not much turnout in April for an April election. So what that resulted in is a lot of these sort of Springfield establishment type people consistently being board members over a couple of decades. And it just so happened that over that time, Springfield kind of bottomed out. I mean, we had about 15 straight years of academic performance decline in terms of state assessment scores. They were either flat or down over that time and had never really risen at all. So that was the time that covered the time period from when I graduated to the time that I ran. So it was just a different school district than what I left as a student myself in Springfield and Kickapoo. So my first year I ran, I raised, I think, $12,000 and came in fourth out of 3 seats. And the ranking of how those candidates finished it lined up exactly with how much money you raised. So when I ran the second time, I said, well, I'm not going to be outraised, because I guess I see how this works. I'm a businessman. I can see how this works. And it just started going up from there. So the next year that I ran, so in that campaign, the largest amount raised was $23,000, and that was Dr. Merriman. She won her seat. The second year I ran, Steve McCoskey and I raised about $50,000, and it was what we had to do to overcome the sort of dynamic of the system where you didn't have a way to get your message out. You have to get 10, 12,000 votes across Springfield, and you can't get your message out, Kelly, without wanting to do that.
Let me just say this too, because I remember that. I can remember seeing how we're talking exponentially. The money went from $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 just to get a couple signs, maybe some yard signs, whatever, and flyers. Go out and talk to people, to like you just said, $50,000. I want people to think, like, people there are some, and I'm gonna give you. I want you to keep on going on this, but I want you guys in Springfield to hear this. I live in Nixa. Our school board, we're conservative. I'm good. I have 2 nephews who go to school in Springfield. This is why this is a big issue for me. And man, there are people who are, and especially this last time, they're trying to buy the elections. They're raising a lot of money, and they're going against conservative candidates like Kelly, and they are buying elections. They are coming out, these business people. Guys, this is serious stuff. The last time you raised $50,000, keep on going, Kelly. I mean, this is crazy. I didn't realize the money was getting this crazy.
Yeah, so $50,000, and that was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
And then every year it's gotten more expensive. So then the sort of establishment woke up and they formed this PAC, a special interest PAC called United Springfield, and said, okay, well, we won't be outraised. So then they brought all the sort of establishment money into the game. And then last year that resulted in them that PAC put in about $120,000 into the election cycle last year.
$120,000.
The top candidate raised over $120,000. You had to have $70,000 raised just to win a seat. And and so this year, I don't know that it's going to be that, but it's certainly going to be a lot. That same PAC is still backing 2 candidates that are not me. There's another PAC that's made a $10,000 donation in this election cycle. I'm not endorsed by a PAC. Well, I don't get money from a PAC. I get money from parents and grandparents and friends and just concerned voters and stakeholders. I mean, $100 at a time. I may get, a concerned person who has the means, who's a parent or a grandparent or a business owner who donates a couple of $1,000s. But there's no PAC. There's no organization behind what I'm doing and what we're doing. And what people think, I mean, and I don't blame them, is what's behind all the money? What's the motivation? And it's just, honestly, like, it's parents and grandparents that are sick of what's happened to the school district. I mean, I have to raise that kind of money for an unpaid position. I get nothing out of this, nothing but work and commitment. And it's just the sacrifice that I feel called to make an impact on the district, to start kind of digging out of a hole that's been created and to start improving things for the 24,000 students in the district. And fundraising is terrible. It is not fun.
Yeah.
I don't like asking for anything. I built my business. I built it. And I didn't ask anything of my parents or anyone else. I just went and built it. And I just don't like asking for things. That's the worst. It's definitely the worst part about it. And it has gotten crazy. But there's really, like, if we want to fix this district and make necessary improvements, it's the only way that we can do it, because it's the only way you can get your message out across the entire school district to somehow get 12,000 or more people motivated enough to go vote. And it is insane. We sat down, me and several other local school board members sat down with a candidate that was running for governor in the last cycle. And he was asking about the local school board races and all of that. And he said, so what is it? What are we talking about here? What does it take to win a seat in Springfield? And we kind of all talked amongst ourselves, and we said, probably minimum $60,000. And he just about fell out of his chair. He said, wait a second.
I know.
What did you just say? I mean, it was 10 times the number that he expected, because that's the amount that it would usually take to win more like a state Senate seat, a competitive state Senate seat, where there's, a paid position.
Yeah. The reality is this as well. And I mean, it's power. It's, that, and people with money, they want it. You got the establishment and, the things that are at stake here, are this. And, I talk about this school board issue a lot. I'm a fundamental. When I pastored in St. Louis, we lived out in South County, and our kids were able to go to good schools down in the Melville School District. But I pastored in the inner city, and at the time, the school districts were failing there. They were unaccredited, and people would say to me, Pastor, how come your kids go to good schools, good school districts, but our kids are stuck here in this unaccredited school district? And, that's when my eyes were first open to things like school choice, to charter schools. I didn't know anything about that. There were people that educated me on that in St. Louis. Now, I don't necessarily know that I don't think Nixa needs a charter school or this or that, but I think that education is one of the greatest equalizers, and we need good people coming together from all different walks of life, business people, pastors and religious people, parents. I even want teachers and educators at the table to say, something's messed up, something's broken. How can we come together and fix our schools? And I'm gonna tell you what, in Springfield, I think they're good schools. I'm not in Springfield. Again, I got a couple nephews, but there's a couple of issues that are on the table that do not represent conservative ideology, like discipline. I mean, you have to have discipline. Discipline's not a bad word. It's not an ugly word. But if teachers don't feel supported enough to have a safe classroom where things are structured in order, the 20, 25 students that they are trying to educate, it won't work. And if you have a weak, passive, almost woke, ideology of, if kids are bad, then let's just remove the whole classroom, all the students from the class instead of the one student. It just doesn't work. And then I think that with Trump coming in, you see some of the woke ideology with the transgender, the LGBTQ stuff being pushed down our throats. It's going to be eradicated. I don't want that inside with kids at all. If you're an adult, you're LGBTQ, you do what you want to do. You have the right to do that, but not with our kids. So let's dive into some of these issues, Kelly. Like, what's the thing that wakes you up to where you're like, hey, this is why I'm running for school board? What's one of the biggest issues?
Well, I mentioned earlier, and I'll come back to what you just said, because I agree. Right now in Springfield Public Schools, there's the two biggest issues that we are not doing right now, that we need to do and we can do pretty quickly and without much cost, would be a much greater change to our disciplinary procedures and policies. And then the other one would be cell phones. We got to get the kids off of cell phones during the school year. Those are two things that I think the district is missing the mark on right now. But the other thing that I touched on earlier that is, I just think crucially important for me to win in April is just having the right perspective on the board and having someone with a background of business experience and what that brings to the table to be in that seat and help the largest district in the state with a $360 million annual budget to operate effectively. So we are in the middle of 4 years of cuts. We lost 1,500 students due to, I say due to COVID. It wasn't due to COVID. It was due to our response to COVID. And this took place just before I got on the board. When all the other schools in the area went back to full-time seated, Springfield remained for a full year on a hybrid model where they only had 2 days a week in the classroom, and the rest of the time was virtual learning. And there was so much learning lost during that time. And it was then that we lost 1,500 students to a lot of private schools and people that just moved out of the district to other local public schools. And we haven't gained those back. We've gained some back, but we really haven't moved the needle on that. We're essentially 1,500 students down than where we were in 2019. Well, funding is attached to students from the state level. We get 80% of our funding from, that's not true, I'm sorry. We get a large amount of our funding, something like 15% of our funding or something like that from the state. And that is tied to your average daily attendance. And without those students, we've simply lost funding, which makes sense because if you got less students, it shouldn't cost you as much money to educate those students. So we have to cut our budget. We just don't have as much revenue as we had before. So we've already cut back over the last 2 years, which resulted in laying off a lot of staff because that's where 80% of your budget goes, is to salaries and benefits. We've got 2 more years of that. We've got to cut $15 million out of the budget over the next 2 years. We also are in the middle of a $220 million bond where we are building new buildings and remodeling buildings in the district that has been needed for quite some time. But there's a long list, and there's more beyond that we need to do. In about 2 years, I think it is. I can't remember if it's 2 years from now or 3 years from now. They'll put another bond issue on the ballot of a similar size. So we're talking over the life of my next term, something like $500 million in bond spending that'll need to happen. And that's something I have a background in as a real estate investor and real estate developer, just sort of construction and budgets and managing those processes on a smaller scale for sure. We're not building out $500 million worth of developments. But it's something I have experience in navigating, and it's something that I brought value to this board on to make sure that we're doing that responsibly and efficiently, that we're getting the process right, and that we aren't wasting any of those funds to things that ultimately don't affect education at the classroom level. So those are two big issues that we're going to be navigating over the life of this next term. And if I'm not on that board, that's just not the background we have. We have retired educators, we have an attorney, we have a retired physician. I'm running against another attorney, and I am running against someone who works in an executive role through Bass Pro, but it's not, her job is more sort of HR and culture related.
Yeah.
So it is very important that we have that perspective on the board as we're navigating a very touchy sort of financial time in the district.
I mean, you drive around Springfield and you see the aging schools. I think Robertson Elementary, then aren't they getting ready to build a new building? They sold the one over on what is that, Division Street? I forget the name of that school. I work over at Evangel, new school that just got built last couple years over there. There's a lot of aging schools over on across from the Highland. That school, the Highland Factory on Kearney. So that's smart. I didn't think about that. I mean, you got a business and a development, a real estate background. That's good expertise to have on the school board. And, and you got school age children as well. Those are the things I love about you. You're a straightforward guy. So definitely need to have someone like you on the school board. And you're a man of faith, a good conservative guy who is going to stand up for the kids' values. I want to talk about the cell phone policies. Like what's the deal with Springfield with the cell phone policies? I know I just was introduced to a book by it was called Raising Mentally Strong Kids by Dr. Daniel Amen, and he's talking about how even in Los Angeles they are implementing a cell phone policy. We implemented a cell phone policy in Nixa. I'm on the school board there. I think Representative Jamie Ray Gregg introduced or said that, hey, schools need to have some cell phone policy. What's happening with Springfield? Where are you guys at with that? Do you guys have one? Is it in the works? If not, what's stopping that?
So it's very much a problem in Springfield. Most of the high schools you go to, even the middle schools, you will see cell phones out throughout the day. And there's a fairly lax approach to it from my point of view, in that they don't want to blow it up into a big problem. So if kids are using their phones, they just don't see it as a problem, as long as, whatever, they're not creating a problem, right? So it's different from high school to high school. We have 5 of them. And it's different from middle school to middle school. And we have 8 of them, I think, 8 or 9 of them. And what we used to have is we had procedurally in our student handbook some very clear language that student cell phone use was not allowed. And there were supporting disciplinary progressive procedures that supported that. So if you used your cell phone, you knew what the consequences were. Well, somewhere along the way, they just kind of stopped with the consequences and just kind of let it go. So last summer, I pushed and put forth a motion to create a policy. And all that policy would have done was mirror our already existing procedural language in the student handbook, that basically cell phones are not allowed to be used. I mean, you can have them, I guess, if they're in your backpack or put away and you can't see them. But if they're used, here's what the consequences will be. And I tried to create that as a policy because our superintendent had been here for, I think she was in her 3rd year at that time. And I'd given her, we'd had a lot of communication about, kind of fix this issue. And she was getting sort of mixed signals from different board members on, how important of an issue this was. So it just wasn't getting done. So to me, the tool that we have as a board is policy. So it was time. Okay. We gave her the space to do it procedurally. It hadn't happened. Now let's get serious and make it a policy. Well, that ended up failing. And even though we had 7 board members that acknowledged that we needed to do something about cell phones, we certainly acknowledged that they had no place in the classroom, 4 board members declined to make that a policy. And for whatever reason, they, and I have my theories, but they just didn't want to go as far as to make it a policy. So the superintendent rolled out some new procedures, actually got rid of the strong language we already had that just wasn't being followed, and made it softer, really, with the intent of making the language softer, but something that they would actually follow. And that hasn't happened. So here we are. We've just gone through the superintendent review process. And one thing I am at least excited about is, as we look forward to her next review next year, she brings us her goals. And I ensured that specifically cell phones would be part of her goals that she would be reviewed on for next year. And the board is coming together a little bit better to unify around, hey, we are serious about cell phones. You need to do something. And we're trying to find where's the line where there's majority support. And I think we at least have it on getting them out of the classrooms. I want them out of the halls. I want them out of the lunchroom. I don't want them on their cell phones from the start bell to the end bell at the end of the day. I'm not in the majority opinion, I don't believe, on our board. And I think that's unfortunate, because without that, I don't think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think you can navigate it throughout the day if there's certain places they can use it and certain places they can't. I think they will ultimately just give up on it because it makes it really hard to enforce. So I'm certainly a supporter of just making it clean and simple. You're not to use them during the school day. We'll see what comes of that over the next year. But this is one of those issues where, you can just say elections have consequences. And we just don't have the votes on the board right now to just create a simple policy that says, hey, these things aren't allowed.
Okay, so a couple things, Kelly. I mean, this cell phone deal, I think this is going to be something that is going to be discussed, talked about with all school districts for the next 5 to 10 years. And here's why. Because and this is where politics goes in. Obviously, school board's not supposed to be political, but you see things broken down on, okay, well, which side with the most money, where do they flow on this? So, for example, you look at tech companies. Traditionally, they've leaned a little bit left, and they do not want the cell phones out of the hands of these kids. I think that 10 years from now, people are going to look at it and go, man, Kelly Byrne was right on, we need them out of the schools. We need them out of the hallways. We don't even need kids having them for as much as they do. People are seeing the addiction with, the level of debt. That's what this Dr. Daniel Amen talks about in raising mentally strong kids. But we don't want to admit it yet, and we don't have motivation to admit it because the big tech, they don't want those cell phones out of the hands of kids. They want them in the hands of kids. And, so that's a big thing, and that's disappointing how politics is affecting what happens even down to the school board, which is supposed to be non-political. Now, we got a teacher, and I know the guy, I went to Evangel with him, Troy Cookta. He says that the problem he's seeing, and he's a teacher here in Springfield, great teacher. I think he won Teacher of the Year a couple years ago. But he says the problem is cell phone addiction with the youth. And it starts in the elementary and it goes all the way through high schools. That is so true. So, Kelly, how are you guys as a Springfield School Board, first of all, acknowledging the cell phone addiction? You are not in the majority opinion where you're saying, don't even have them, bring them to school. That's probably the wisest thing. Me and my wife are evaluating that for our family now. We got 3 teenagers in high school, and we're going, we were the parents that going, we're never going to let our kids get addicted to these things, but yet we are there. They are addicted. How are you guys going to, on a school board, come together and move the needle to protect the children from this bigger cultural thing, which is cell phone addiction? That's really it.
Yeah, I think it's coming, and for some reason, I don't know why it's taking so long, but this is a sort of bipartisan support issue where people are seeing, the harm that these are causing, and that the harm is so much greater than the whatever good that there is. And I think you see a lot of what, we're cutting edge technology sort of districts. Like, it's districts in San Francisco that have been cutting back on the cell phones and the use of Chromebooks to deliver education. And I think it's coming around, and I think we'll start seeing more of it across the country. It's being taken up at the state level, in Missouri now. Other states have created state statute. I don't think we need to do that. I'm a big supporter of local control. I think Springfield needs to decide what's best for Springfield. And I just think right now Springfield is missing the mark on something that is so clear and obvious that this is harming our students and their ability to learn and their ability to just grow and adapt and to be, functional social beings. Um, I don't think we need the state to tell us what to do. It's obvious. We can do it ourselves, and we know how it should be done. I mean, even when I was in high school in 2003, all of my classmates had cell phones, but you knew not to bring that thing out of your pocket, or at least not let the teacher see it. Because if that happened, that thing was going to the office, your parents were getting called, and
Take it away.
that was going to happen. So they weren't a problem. Um, I just don't think it's that hard to fix it. I think what some of the concern is, and the concern is always this, like being a superintendent is it's a political position in nature, because you're making decisions that ultimately the community, the voters, get to vote every single year. Not every 4 years. They get to vote every single year to replace your bosses. And those bosses can fire you, the school board, right? So you don't see a lot of big swing actions from superintendents. They try to kind of read the tea leaves and stay in the middle, because if they can just kind of hang on and stay in the middle and just kind of continue with whatever the status quo is, then they can feel good about what they're doing. And they don't really want to mess with these big issues. They just want to make sure that students are getting educated. And sometimes they, can tell themselves a story about the, all the good that we're doing in the district, and this isn't a big issue, and why risk my career on doing something like that. Let's just focus on these other things. So like on this issue, you will have significant parent pushback. That which you've probably seen, Alex, with being on the school board as well. There's just a severe breakdown of trust between the home and the school district now, and it's broader than particular like political party lines. There's just, in general, parents don't trust the district. They're worried about what they're teaching their kids. You get significant pushback on if their kid gets a disciplinary issue. They push back and say, well, that wasn't fair to my kid, and why do you do that to that kid? And they sort of teach their kids to rebel against the authority. They teach their 12-year-old that their opinion or what they think about something is more important than what the person in charge thinks. And that's
too bad.
Really made it very hard on teachers and administrators, like principals, to navigate when every time they want to do what is right, like take a cell phone or create some sort of disciplinary issue because a student cussed out a teacher or whatever it is, then the student goes home and tells the parent, no, this is what happens. And then for some reason, our parents these days believe the student over the adult. Whereas when I was a kid, I think me and most of my friends, they didn't believe what we said. It was whatever that teacher said, whatever that principal said, that's what happened. And you're getting punished at school and you're getting punished at home. And that doesn't exist as much anymore. So if you start pushing back on cell phones, and teachers or parents, because there's so much mistrust between, that we've kind of built over time, they see that cell phone as sort of a link to them to be able to constantly sort of helicopter over their kids and to be able to reach their kids. They're worried about, obviously, like school shootings, and they think that cell phone is going to somehow allow them to better, I guess, control or protect their kids or whatever it is. So it would be a significant issue, and it's something that you got to have full board support, full superintendent support up and down throughout the district, because once you start pushing back and take away a cell phone, you're going to have some very angry parents. And these are some situations that I just think are very different than they were 20 years ago in how parents are behaving on the phone or in person when they're having conversations with the teacher or the principal of the building.
Yeah, one of our viewers just said cell phones are digital pacifiers. Kelly, you're bringing up a great point. We're talking to Kelly Byrne. He is a Springfield School Board member. He is running for re-election here. I want to switch gears on this. How do we rebuild that trust? Because you just hit the nail on the head. We just don't trust each other anymore. I think I look at it in the lens of local control. Like, obviously, you go federal government. So many people don't trust the federal government, all the stuff that's going on there. And then you got state. You look at DESE, that's Department of Education, Secondary Education. They're responsible for $15 billion, and then they decipher it however they want to. So then you bring it down to local control. In Springfield, shouldn't people know their fellow Springfieldians and say, okay, listen, I'm going to vote for Kelly. He's a good businessman. He's got kids in the school district. He's an honest guy. He's a man of faith. I can trust him. How do we rebuild that to where everything's just not a fight anymore? Because politics just seems like it's permeating everything. How can we rebuild trust?
So there's obviously a larger social and spiritual issue going on across our culture. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of factors that come into play on this issue. From the school district's point of view, some of them we can control and some of them we cannot. So, if I could just, make a wish and blink, and it happened, then there's a lot more beyond the scope of the school board that could be changed to, help just sort of strengthen the culture that we have across sort of just our approach to parenting and homes and things of that nature. But from the school district's point of view, what we need to do is acknowledge that this sort of that there's this growing rift between the home and the classroom, and there are things that we can do to help kind of mend those things, and we can also acknowledge what we've done over time to break down or to create those barriers. Um, and it's a lot of things over time. You know, having a lot of your education for your child being delivered through a computer or a Chromebook breaks down those sort of communication channels between the home and the classroom. Because if you take a textbook home, then the parents can see, they can read that textbook, they can see what they're learning now, what they will be learning. They can read through it and see if there's anything in there that they are concerned about. They can have those conversations with their student. It allows them to just have a better understanding of what's being taught and how to help their student navigate whatever those things are through the lens that they think is appropriate in their home. But when you have this sort of hodgepodge curriculum that is infinite in terms of its resources, there's not one book. Like a science class might just be pulling resources from YouTube or whatever else on the internet. It's really just becomes up to that teacher or that district what they're going to be teaching, and you don't have a way to see it or know what it is with these assignments not coming home. So that's one way. Another thing is the something as simple as the grading structure. Springfield just changed their grading structure so that all elementary students don't receive traditional letter grades anymore. You don't get an A, B, C, D, or F. You actually are graded according to the state learning standards. So basically what you're going to be tested on in the MAP test in the spring. And there's like 40 of them on a grade card. And they're like a sentence. And some of them are kind of hard to understand exactly what it is that they're trying to learn. So it'll be a statement about something that they're supposed to learn relative to science, right? And then they'll be graded 1, 2, or 3 on their comprehension of that subject. So it's a much harder thing for the parents to understand, how is my student really doing? And in education, people get really excited about the latest, greatest, whatever, and the research suggests this, and this is the new method that children learn best. And then sometimes they forget some of the foundational aspects that are important. And one of those is that the home is the most important in a child's education journey. And if you start making decisions that alienate the home or remove them from the process, then it creates further challenges for that student to be successful. And it also creates further breakdowns in communication and breaks down trust between the home and the district. And I think it's been a lot of decisions, just like those two I mentioned over time, that have kind of just removed the parents from the situation. Then simultaneously, you have, probably in large part, there's a spiritual thing going on, but in large part, there's, what social media and phones and the internet age has done to us as a society. And how we approach parenting our kids. For some reason, on the average, parents treat their 12-year-olds like they're, autonomous 20-year-olds, like they're adults, and let them make really big decisions that they shouldn't be making. I mean, it's like, we are placed as adults in children's lives to create, the sort of limitations on reality, so that kids, as they're growing and trying to figure out what is reality, so that they know what those limitations are. But when we break all those down and say basically there is no reality, there is no truth. There's just individuals' perception, and whatever their truth is the truth. We let students decide things as foundational as what gender they think that they are or want to be.
Yeah.
When they're 10, 12 years old and aren't capable of making these decisions. We give them a phone when they're in third grade, and they just have access without us knowing it to pornography. Here's a weird one, to AI, where they can be having conversations with a chat bot that
It's coming.
go down these sort of roads of, like, you think you have this friend, or you're having, and then these conversations get really dark, and you can have a conversation with some fictional character that's talking to you like they're your friend, but then they can have sexual conversations with these bots.
Wow.
It's a time where I think as parents we're being asked more and more and to navigate this new world that we're in, and so many of us just don't realize it. And I think so many of us are going to wake up in a few decades and go, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I miss on?
Yeah, man, Kelly, we're talking with Kelly Byrne. He is a Springfield school board member. He's running for re-election. You bring up a lot of good stuff, and from just the common sense stuff to how policies matter, to the spiritual life, the importance of the family. And I want people to take a look at you for Springfield School Board. Tell people how they can get in touch with you, how they can connect with your campaign, and give them your information.
So I have a website at kelly4sps.info. That's KELLY, just the number 4, SPS.info. And these school board elections can be hard to find information so that what candidates stand for. And I tried real hard to make sure that website shows not just things that I stand for, but things that I've done. It really highlights areas that I've taken on a fight, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, over my first term. So you can see things that are actionable that I have stood for, and things that I'll continue to stand up for. So there's a lot of information there that can show you who I am and what I believe, and why I'm running.
Well, Kelly Byrne, you're a good one. And I know that you have kids as well, school-age children, and you're a businessman in the Springfield community. You've gone to Springfield Public Schools, and you care for your community. You're willing to serve. You're giving your own time, your money, your treasure, and you're going to need a lot of help. I'm not asking you this. I've said this before. When I ran for Congress, I didn't realize how much money it was going to take. I mean, I spent about $10,000 of my own money, and I know you guys have been putting in thousands of your own money to run for Springfield School Board. You need people's help. You don't like to ask for money, but I'm going to ask for you. Go to his website, connect with Kelly, make a donation, but even more importantly, talk to your Sunday school class. Talk to your small group. Talk to your friends at church and let them know Kelly is a good guy. He's a good man of faith. He needs your vote. The elections are coming up. April, what's the date on that again? April
8th.
What's the date? April 8th. He needs your vote. Say it again.
Sorry,
April 8th.
April 8th.
Yeah, April 8th. He's going to need your vote. 15,000 of you faithful Christian people here in the Springfield area. He's a good guy that we want on the school board. He's been there before. He's got a business mind, represents our community. And we need people that represent our faith, that know the issues. You guys have heard him now for about 30, 45 minutes talking about the philosophies. He's a common sense guy, and we need him back on the Springfield School Board. I want him there to represent my nephews that are in the Springfield Public Schools. So, Kelly, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us here on Frontline Faith. I'll give you the final word, my friend.
Just thank you. I appreciate you very much, Alex, and everything you do.
Hey, thank you for joining us here on Frontline Faith. We'll link your website as well on this so that people can know. Go check him out. And again, get your Sunday school class, get your small group. We've seen these elections here in Springfield, and there's a lot of people that don't represent our values, that aren't going to support the kids like we do. We've seen these elections be lost by 250 votes. That's ridiculous. I think Trump said, make it too big to rig. Let's do that for Kelly Byrne. Make it too big. I'm not saying they're rigging school board elections, okay? I just want that to be said. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying, let's give him an overwhelming show of support, Kelly Byrne for Springfield School Board. Thanks for joining us, my friend. God bless. Have a great day.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, so we'll link the website for Kelly on the message here, but check him out. So let's keep it moving. Let's do our Planet 417. They are our host here. You can always check us out on Planet 417. They're our host. We still have an interview with State Senator Curtis Trent. He's coming up. We got the big stories of the day, or top stories of the day. We got the big deals. We got a lot still ready for you. Stick around right here on Frontline.
What's the big deal? Opening news story.
All right, we just talked to Kelly Byrne. He's running for Springfield School Board. First, I'm going to ask you, post a link on our Facebook to his info so that people can have that right there. So get out and vote for him. Hey, a couple of stories that I want to look at. What's the big deal? First of all, I mentioned this earlier, and then we brought Kelly on. But right now, the U.S., President Trump, he's saying, hey, I'm going to put an end to this war in Ukraine. We want that to happen. We're tired of this war. It's been dragging on like literally 3 years. It should never have happened. Trump has made that perfectly clear. He said, if I was in office, Putin would have never invaded Ukraine. We had President Joe Biden saying, hey, well, if it's a small incursion, I guess we'll let that slide. And Putin went in. And now they're saying about 1 million Ukrainians have been killed or wounded in battle. They're saying almost 1 million Russians have been lost. Just senseless, just loss of life. For what? Just for a little bit of territory? Because we know that Putin, a bad actor who wants to reunite all of the Balkan nations, that's what he wants. That's all he's been doing. And we know that Putin is not a good dude. The United States, our leadership, both Republican and Democrat, have tiptoed around this for decades. And now it's time for the European countries, I strongly believe, to stand up and say, listen, America can't fight all of our battles. We got to kind of defend our own self, but we'll see how that goes. So Trump has been saying, hey, I'll put an end to this war, and he's working on that. He has sent a delegation of officials. They're in the process of negotiating the peace plan to end that war. So the group is led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and he's meeting with the Russian counterpart, the Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and they're seeking the terms of the peace agreement. So the big deals, let me just say this, first of all, Zelensky's not a part of this. You have the United States, they're meeting in, I think it's Saudi Arabia, and we're meeting with, so our Secretary of State's meeting with kind of the Russian counterpart, and they're talking about this. Zelensky's not a part of this. I did some research to find out why, because we need to bring all of them together. Well, here's the deal. Zelensky, he's a wartime president. He is, his term's been over. And so he should not be the president right now, but because he has put in martial law and it's wartime, they're keeping him as president. They can't run elections because they're being bombed all the time. Russia is saying, here's the terms we want. Obviously they want the land that they've taken. They want to keep that from Ukraine. Ukraine's going, no, we want all of our land back, the pre-invasion. But Russia wants the land that they've taken, that they've gotten ground on so far, and they want a new election because they want Zelensky out. Putin can't stand Zelensky. What really is probably going to happen is, and what many believe, if Putin was in charge of Ukraine, he'd put a puppet in to lead the people of Ukraine. And so Ukraine wants free and fair elections. That's what the United States is pushing for. So we are now working on a system where, which one am I on? Right here? There we go. Hey, what's up, guys? You got a new camera angle over there. So they're putting in a system where they can have some free and fair elections. And so those are what they're negotiating on right now. So that is what's happening with the U.S. and the Russian negotiation to end that war. So that's the deal there. I also got to say this. DOGE. Everybody is talking about DOGE. Everybody's tweeting about DOGE. People are Facebook chatting about DOGE. The news, people are fighting on Facebook about DOGE. Admit it. You're fighting with your friends about DOGE on Facebook. What's DOGE? The Department of Government Efficiency. We see all these news stories coming out, and I'm here for it. I'm here for every single thing that they want to give me about DOGE, because they're exposing the waste, fraud, and abuse that many of us have seen and known about within our government for years. And I love seeing it because you're seeing young people engage. They are, I watch some of the videos on X, and I can't even play them because they are cussing up a store, man. They are dropping the big ones. MF, F this. I mean, these young people are mad because we all know and we all see that our money is being wasted. Now, there was a good interview between Joe Rogan and Mike Benz. Now, Mike Benz is a former official with the U.S. Department of State. He's the current executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online. He's a free speech watchdog, basically. And that's what his organization, they are dedicated to restoring the promise of free and open speech and open markets and the open internet. So he was on with Joe Rogan. They did about a 3-hour interview, and I watched it. Now, the one thing I love about Joe Rogan, I mean, it's obviously a 3.5 hour interview sometimes, but ×2 speed, baby. You can always listen at ×2 speed. I'm going to give you a little piece of it. Here's what, this is Mike Benz, again, a former Department of State official. He's talking with Joe Rogan, and he's talking about USAID. That's the first organization that DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, and Elon Musk went in to start to investigate. Here's what Mike Benz had to say about this. Check this out.
USAID, and the National Endowment for Democracy. Now USAID is, a very notorious. It's sort of a switch player. There's no aid in USAID, by the way. That's your brain is being tricked when you see the phrase USAID. It's not an aid organization. The aid in USAID stands for U.S. Agency for International Development. It is developing internationally around the world all of the institutions that the State Department needs to use. So when they are capacity building activist groups in a foreign country, that's because the State Department wants those activists there. Now, USAID, for the first time in its history, it was created in the early 1960s by JFK, 1961. It was created because you had all of this intelligence, statecraft, and military support and logistical aid that was tripping over itself, basically. The military would be funding, would be running aid to certain groups in the region. The State Department would be running aid to certain groups in the region. The intelligence community would, and there was no sort of central coordinator of those capacity building operations. So USAID, by the way, is a $50 billion budget. The entirety of the intelligence community is only $72 billion. So it is more than the CIA and more than the State Department.
Wow.
And aid is basically USAID is effectively a switch player to assist the Pentagon with on the national security front, to assist the State Department on the national interest front, or to assist the intelligence community on a sort of clandestine operations front. So,
I mean, I want you to hear what he was saying. There's a lot there, and that whole interview is so good. Basically, he's talking about the U.S., what AID is. People always think, well, it's the foreign aid. And we saw people, when they were originally starting to talk about some of these cuts, they're cutting this charity, they're cutting this organization, they're cutting this, group that's doing some good, which I hate that. I've said that before. It's got to all be evaluated. It was all put on pause. When Trump and Marco Rubio and Elon Musk first went in, they said, hey, USAID, explain this line item. And USAID, the leaders had this mindset of, we don't have to explain nothing to you. Leave us alone. Get out our business. And then that's what Marco Rubio said. Wait a minute. This falls under the State Department. Last I checked is I'm the Secretary of State. I'm over the State Department. You're going to explain some stuff to me. And they didn't like that. So then he's like, if you don't want to explain, we'll freeze it. And then we'll start to cut it. And that's what's happening. And then you see all these people. My cousin works for this, agency, and he lost his job. And you hate that for anything. But if the leadership would have listened and acquiesced and humbled themselves and start to explain themselves, maybe some of these people wouldn't have lost their jobs. Maybe some of these organizations wouldn't have been cut. But anyway, he goes in to explain this. USAID is not even U.S. aid. That's what I thought it was. Foreign aid, money we're giving to people. He said it is Agency for International Development. So basically, the U.S. government, they've been using this giant slush fund, $50 billion, to influence countries and foreign elections. Guys, this is movie stuff. I mean, this is like, you got to stop and think about this stuff. This kind of stuff is deep state. My buddy Shad, I think he just posted something. Mike Benz is great knowledge base of the inner workings of the deep state. Shad McGuire, I got to get him on one of these times and talk about some of his conspiracy theories. And he's going to tell you he's always right. I've had him on before. But, again, I don't dismiss all the conspiracy theories. There's just a lot of them that you jokers give us. But so here's the deal. This is this giant slush fund. There's no denying this. It's a giant slush fund where they are using these funds, your taxpayer dollars, to influence countries and foreign elections. Now, put this in perspective. It's $50 billion. Mike Benz just said this. All of the intelligence in the United States, our budget for that every year is $70 billion. So this slush fund for USAID, which most people think it's foreign aid, we're doing good stuff, we're doing nice stuff to help people. No, it's this giant slush fund that is being used to influence other countries. The quid pro quo, the pay to play. You guys remember when President Joe Biden at the time, when he was vice president working for Obama, when he went over to Ukraine and said, hey, I want you to fire this prosecutor who was prosecuting his son's company. That's all part of the Hunter Biden, the Biden family crime syndicate. And he's like, hey, I'll hold up this $1 billion unless you fire that prosecutor. And you got 6 hours to do it. He's using our funds to hold another country hostage so that his own son, his company, wouldn't be investigated. Shady stuff. Joe Biden should be in jail. I don't care what anybody says. The brother should be in jail. Now, he won't go to jail because we in America, we cover for people. But anyway, this USAID. Do you know how many countries, I looked this up, receive foreign aid, money, resources, gifts? How many countries do you think? I'm gonna almost wait on this because some of you guys are watching this live right now online. Type in the comments, how many countries do you think receive foreign aid from the United States? Don't look it up, just type it in. I'm wondering if you know. And while I'm waiting for that, I just want to say this. What is this? What does the aid do? Well, the USAID, and again, how many foreign countries receive money from the United States out of this slush fund, this quid pro quo, this, hey, do what we want you to do and we'll pay for, this or that. And then they say it's for things like, we are like paying for their art center, or we're giving them condoms so that they can have safe sex or whatever. All these crazy things that they code it as. No, it's a slush fund. They're using it for elections to gain and curry influence. So how many countries receive foreign aid? I'm going to give it to you. But here's what they're doing it for. It's and this is what Mike Benz says. This USAID, what they do. They're developing. All they're doing is developing activist organizations in foreign countries that the State Department is building to gain influence. That's what he's saying. And I'm gonna give you the number. We give money out of this USAID to 179 different countries. Stop and think about that, guys. I mean, it's been using the nefarious government people, and I'm not just saying this is Democrats, because if this fund's been going on, this is both sides. This is the deep state. I would even say there's people, when Trump won his first election, he didn't know to go after this organization. Well, now I don't think there's a coincidence that this is the first organization that he went after. Trump's got some knowledge that we don't know, and he brought in Elon, and Vivek Ramaswamy was supposed to help him, and they're saying, we're going to expose it. We're going to return the government to you, the people. We're going to open up the books. We're going to let you know about the JFK assassination. We'll let you know about Martin Luther King assassination. We're going to let you know about when Trump was assassinated. They're opening up the books and they're putting out this stuff because these giant slush funds that have been taking advantage of all of us for so long, it's time for it to end. So USAID was created to be a central hub and organization and organize all the different foreign clandestine operations. It was created by JFK in the 60s. All the movies you and I love to watch, all the spy movies with the black ops. This is what this stuff is. I see Friz over here smiling and laughing. It's so true, man. It's all coming together now. These black ops organizations, they're funneling money. And, like this new movie on Paramount called Lioness. I mean, like, has anybody ever seen that? Like that show Lioness? It's like with the girl Zoe something. She's Gamora in the Galaxies, Guardians of the Galaxies, but she stars in it, and it's like these female like special agents that they embed into different spy organizations or different terrorist organizations to bring them down. This stuff has to be real, and this is USAID is used for this stuff. I mean, come on, people. They are all about relationship building, and it says they're capacity building activist groups. They use that. They go into the media. They work through the Pentagon, through the State Department, and the intelligence community because they got a $50 billion a year budget. They can work with whoever they want to. They're like outside of these. It's like the shadow men. All the movies that you see, they've been used to sponsor, obviously, military operations, but also here's another thing that they do, and this is according to Mike Benz on this podcast with Joe Rogan. They've been used to sponsor hit piece journalism to ruin people's lives and go after leaders of other countries that they don't like in order to change the policies of foreign governments from the inside out. That's sad. So they obviously, they with these special military groups, but also journalism. See, they know that if they can control our mind, this is what they do in the United States. They are literally control. I see my man, Matthew, you try to go to the microphone. He's looking up something.
I'm in math. Well, I say that I am not a math major, but I like to crunch the numbers. So you said what they have, 50 billion?
50 billion. That's according to Mike Benz.
According to Mike Benz, they got 50 billion, all right? Let me do this with my calculator. And we divide this by how many countries? 179?
179 countries that we've given money to.
So per country, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to put this into perspective, and I also, here, hold on, let me... See, I keep forgetting I'm also audio and video, so let me just, hey.
There you go,
guys,
Friz.
how you doing? Yeah, how you doing here? Now I want to get you in here on here as well, because I want your reaction to this, Alex.
Okay, come on.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
The money we give per country for the slush fund, $279 million per, not just for the whole, not just for every single country, per country, $279,329,000 we give because of U.S. aid. Yeah, I would like to know where my mind is going. Thank you.
Slush fund. It's a giant slush fund. Now, obviously, some countries probably get more than others, but that's the kind of money that's going. If you just break it down between those 179 countries, $279 million per country, and we're gaining influence politically through the journalism. Again, that's the power of journalism. That's the power of the media, and we see how the media in our country, it leans extremely left, and they are literally galvanizing the way we think, the way we feel, what we believe. That's why Trump, we came on before a couple years ago, he's talking about fake news because he's realizing that not all the media is telling the truth. But yet some people can't even believe what happens. They say things like Fox News, that's right wing, and they don't even believe it because they're so mad at it. They've been taught to hate it. They can't stand Fox News, and they're believing the lie that all they do is lie. So, but again, Mike Benz on his podcast with Joe Rogan, he went in and said that this USAID slush fund, through their journalism hit pieces, the way they're ruining the lives of leaders, they have had over 500 policies changed because of their influence. Whether it's military or journalism or, bribing corrupt leaders, they've had over 500 policies from other countries changed or influenced. They've also caused over 5 or 6 governments to topple or be transitioned. Guys, do you remember when the stuff was happening in Egypt, I don't know, under Obama's reign 10, 12 years ago, when they were starting to get on the internet and Facebook, because remember, Facebook, they censor other countries, not like they do us. They always talk free speech here, but Facebook, Google, all these other companies, they work with these other governments that are like communists and or socialists, and they acquiesce to what they want. And people in Egypt were starting to get a workaround, and they were starting to see some of the things that were the propaganda, the false propaganda is being put out, and there's a revolution on Facebook. This is in Egypt. And so the Egyptian government said, no, we're shutting it down. We're shutting down Facebook. Well, there were so many connections through like WhatsApp and these different apps where they were getting the information back and forth. And so it got to be the young people in Egypt. You guys remember this is 10, 12 years ago. They marched on, the Capitol and overthrew the government there. This is the stuff that we're talking about, people. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's happening. And you got to wonder, did we give some money out of USAID? What are we being used? There's been 456 arrests or indictments because of USAID. There's speculation now that our government was a part of all this crazy stuff. I'm kind of going long here, and we got Curtis Trent, State Senator Curtis Trent, who's waiting. I'm going to give some purely irresponsible speculation here in just a minute about how I think this thing could work. But I forgot. I mean, Frizz, you got to keep me on track. We got State Senator Curtis Trent.
Man, you kept going, man. I didn't want you to stop.
Let's do this. Let's get a little pause with station identification. What we do here, Planet 417, and then we'll come in with another interesting interview, and then I'm going to come back with some more on this USAID and the giant slush fund. That's right here on Frontline Faith.
Interesting interviews.
All right, welcome back to Frontline Faith with Alex and Bryant. Hey, I want to tell you, we have a special treat for us. We have one of our Missouri's own state senators from our area here in Springfield. It's Curtis Trent. So, Senator Trent, thank you for joining us. How are you this morning, my friend? Looks like we have, do we have him? Can we hear him?
It shows that he's connected, but he's not exactly here. Let me text him.
All right, so let's see if you can get some audio going on that. We got a black screen over there. Well, put me on here. So we're looking for State Senator Curtis Trent. I've been connecting with him. He's doing some good stuff. There was an article about him that was written in the Missouri Sun-Times just a couple weeks ago, and I wonder if we lost him because I held him up for too long. I feel bad if that's the case on that, because he was like this sitting there waiting. That would be terrible. That'd be all my fault. But there's an article about how he is one of the good ones. He's working and doing some good stuff here for us in Missouri. So while Frizz is working to get him on the line, let me just go back to, this whole USAID. I'm going to speculate a little bit. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I say that often, but here's kind of how I see this whole thing with this. And again, this is from this. It says he just texted me. He says he's here. Looks normal on his end, but we can't get a video. Check and see if you can get him over there again. I apologize. Senator Trent, this is how we work with our technical stuff over here. Can we get his audio? Yeah, no audio either. All right, man, Senator, we got a black screen and we don't have the audio over here, and so what's that? All right, this is live. This is live show right here. This is how we work. Okay, we got him now. There we go.
Yeah, can you hear
Senator
me?
Curtis Trent. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Great to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Hey, thank you for joining us. You're up there. You're in session in Jefferson City. What's the snow like? Are you guys expecting snowmageddon there?
Oh, yeah. We've already got quite a bit of snow on the ground. The roads are covered, and I think there's probably more that's coming. So, it's good that we're all here and have plenty of stuff to do, because I don't think we're going to be going anywhere soon.
Well, there you go. Thank you for doing that and helping us there. So you're on Frontline Faith with Alex Byrne. I had you on the radio show when I was doing it many times. I want to kind of do a little introduction of you to my audience, and And to do that, I pulled up your bio. So that's the deal there. We're going way back. I know you've had lunch with you a couple times. You're a good man, good Christian brother, one of our Baptist brothers here. And no, Church of God brothers, I'm sorry. So that's where, Curtis is. But so you worked for Billy Long. You're one of his staffers there.
Yes.
I think you started by volunteering on his campaign. Then you followed him to D.C. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I was his first campaign staffer, and then was with him for 4 years in D.C. as his deputy chief. Did a lot of policy work. Very interesting. Although D.C. is a very frustrating place, it was very most complacent place I've ever been, and I'm really glad to see Trump there shaking it up now.
And D.C. wasn't for you, I understand. You prefer your roots here in Missouri. I think you went to school at St. Louis University, and you found a passion for constitutional law, and you love Missouri. You call it Missouri or Missouri?
Yeah, either will work. I usually call it Missouri, but if you get too far south of I-44, a lot of times it's Missouri.
Yeah, our buddy Scott Fahn, he'll say Missouri all day. He's Missouri's favorite hillbilly. So, you're working here. You're a lawyer. You enjoy practicing law. But what I've learned about you is you got a brilliant legal mind. You're a constitutional attorney. You love these are things I noticed about you. You like serving the people, and you love the Constitution. Am I right or wrong on that? I mean, I want you to expand on that a little bit.
No, you're right on both counts. I think that ordered liberty is how we exercise our freedoms in this country, and freedom and order are bound up in each other. And the way that we have maintained order in this country is through the Constitution, through a set of rules that are written down that are objective, and that if they're faithfully implemented, provide everyone with clear guidelines, including the government, and most especially the government, clear guidelines on what it can and can't do to us as citizens.
So after you returned from D.C., working with Billy Long, you went to the House there. You served 6 years, starting in 2016, the 133rd, and then when Congressman Burleson termed out, you end up filling his seat. And so you have been in the Missouri Senate now for about 3 years, and you've already had some successful times there. You've passed 3 bills and 5 amendments. What are the highlights of those? What are the ones that you're most proud of?
Well, I tell you, the bill I'm probably there's several that I'm very proud of. One that I think is notable for the audience was prohibition on eviction moratoriums. So if you'll remember back during the height of COVID, you had these local governments that came in and basically started taking people's property, saying you can't do evictions, and that included prohibition on squatting. So if you'll recall, also during that same time period, you started to have people who would just come in, move into people's property, and kind of prevent them from getting them out without going through a long legal process. And so this sort of goes back to what we were saying earlier with ordered liberty. You have to have clearly defined rules, and government is not capable and should not be allowed to take away those rights, especially without due process. And so that not only protects the landowners, but also protects your average person who just wants to rent, who just wants to have a place to live that's affordable. Because what happens if property rights aren't respected? People just leave. They just take their investment dollars. They go elsewhere, and so you saw the price of rent going up drastically in some of these cities where there were no protections on property rights. And so if you're struggling to make ends meet, the last thing you need is for your rent to go up. So I thought that was a big win for the average Missourian, and especially for Missourians that might be struggling to make ends meet.
Well, thank you for your work on that. We have a new session, and this year you're working on a couple of Senate bills, 46 and 47, capital gains cuts, and the class action reform. Tell us why those are important to you and what you're doing with those bills.
Well, so the class action reform, that is a bill that really goes to the bottom line for every Missourian, because when you have frivolous lawsuits in the state, That is passed on in the cost of goods and services. That's passed on in the cost of your insurance rates. And Missouri is often behind when it comes to litigation issues. The standard practice for class actions is for the certification of the class to happen at the beginning of the lawsuit. And why that's important is because once a lawsuit is sustained, you begin to do a lot of things that are expensive, discovery, other kinds of court proceedings. And so if you engage in all those expenses, and then the class is ultimately not certified because it, did not meet the legal definition of a class action, you've wasted all the money, all the time that has gone into that lawsuit up until that point. So you want that sort of foundational question to be at the beginning of the lawsuit rather than in the middle or toward the end. And so that's what that bill would do, is just try to
So let me
prevent
just say this.
unnecessary expenses.
I got to say this. See, like that's why we need smart, ethical lawyers like Curtis Trent representing us, because when you explain it, it makes sense what you're talking about. But I had no clue about this stuff. We all know common sense. We see so many frivolous lawsuits that are just costing money, time, everything. And this is a way to kind of eradicate some of that, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, and it doesn't really change any of the outcome. Like if you have a legitimate class action and you want to, get satisfaction for that, you'll still be able to do that. These are the rules that's used at the federal level. People recover under those rules all the time. But it is designed to try to prevent unnecessary expenses that you otherwise wouldn't have to bear. The capital gains tax bill, similarly is aimed at increasing prosperity and job opportunities in the state. Money goes wherever it is treated well. In Missouri right now, we have a 4.7% capital gains tax on every capital gains that you earn. And that just makes us that much less competitive with other states that don't have similar costs. And so the businesses that would like to expand, that would like to hire more workers, that would like to make capital investments in the state, they take their money elsewhere on the margin because they can get a higher rate of return somewhere else. And so the capital gains tax is a relatively small amount of revenue to the state. And it probably ultimately ends up costing us revenue because the amount of investment that leaves the state that would have generated commercial activity that would have been taxed is reduced significantly by that expense. So that's the goal here, is to make Missouri a more attractive place to do business and raise the standard of living and prosperity for everyone.
So is the capital gains cuts for businesses only, or for individuals as well, or both?
Well, so Missouri collects its capital gains through the income tax, so it's going to be for everyone.
And so we're talking about if you sell property, you sell a house, you don't put something back in there, and you have a big one, you're going to pay huge capital gains. If business has a big windfall, yeah.
And one of the big industries that cares about this a lot is your family farms, because right now, if you're trying to pass a farm on to someone else, you really have to wait until you pass away to do that. Do that through our state laws in the state. And so that means that a lot of these family farms, are being unproductive for some period of time if someone is maybe too old to really actively work the farm, but they can't really transfer it to a new owner without incurring a big expense and capital gains. And so there's lost productivity there, and frankly, just makes it harder for the continuation of family farms from one generation to the next. And so we had a big outpouring of support from the ag community in the state for this bill.
That's awesome. Well, State Senator Curtis Trent, he's working hard for us here in Missouri. You're a Missourian, and you're from here in the Springfield area. You're around here oftentimes. People can connect with you. If people need to know or want to know how to connect with you, how can they do that, Senator?
Well, they can go on the Senate website, senate.mo.gov, if they want to contact my office. I'm on, Facebook, Curtis Trent Mo, and on what you formerly known as Twitter, now X, Curtis D. Trent. and I'm easily to contact at any of those locations. Try to be available. We're in session right now, and so any feedback that the public has on bills that are going on before the General Assembly, always eager to know any perspectives that folks back home are interested in sharing.
Well, you're one of the good ones. You're there representing us in Missouri. You're actually the committee chair and a rising star in the Missouri Republican Party. We thank you for all that you're doing. Thanks for joining us here on Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, sir. There we go, State Senator. There we go. He's a good dude. I like him. Down to earth brother. Whenever there's just times he's just like, hey, I'd be on the radio. He's like, hey, I listened to you. I heard this. Want to have some coffee? I'm going to set the record straight about something. And so he's a good dude. I appreciate all that he's doing there. So, hey, I want to kind of get back into this, and then before we get into top stories of the day, and we probably going to cut out a little bit early because Snowmageddon Frizz has got to make sure that he gets home safely and gets back to take his little nap for the day. How many naps are you going to get today, Frizz?
At least 2.
2 naps?
At least 2. Come on, man. It's
Frizz,
snowy outside. Get a little warm drink before you go to bed.
What Frizz calls a nap, some would call a night of sleep. I mean, his naps can be up to 4 or 5 hours.
That's true. That is true. I'm like a cat, man. I love my sleep.
Oh, a cat. I can't. Talked about hockey and cats. Come on, man. So.
Hey, those are a great combination. Come on now.
Lord. Anyway. Okay, I got to get back to this because, with this DOGE, okay, now in this slush fund, I let my mind go here for a second here. Give me this close up over here, Frizz. I let my mind go this up. Oh, that's you. I let my mind go here for a second, people. And I want to talk to you. I want to speculate a little bit about how they're using this slush fund, how it could be used. Let me just say this. So they're trying to influence countries. They're trying to influence governments, people through media, through military force, through regime change. Why and how? So stop and think about this. Everybody talks about the Great Reset, right? And how there's a deep state. If you've not heard about the Great Reset, you're not paying attention. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm not a conspiracy theory, but if you don't believe at least one or two by now, I question whether you have a brain. I'm not going to lie to you because let's be real. Some of these conspiracies are right on. So you hear this stuff about the Great Reset. And, I'm not giving in to all of the Great Reset stuff, but I'm listening. Actually, move me over here to this one, okay? This one over here. I'm listening, people. Now, let me just speculate a little bit how this could happen, all right? For decades now, since we were in, elementary school, high school, we heard about Y2K, how everything was going to reset, how the computers were going to crash, and the ice caps are melting, and the climate change and this and that, and how we are depleting our natural resources, oil, natural gas. And then I do some research now. I mean, do you guys know that we have like 18 trillion barrels of oil that's being held up in Alaska in the Arctic National Reserve? 18 trillion barrels of oil. We now bring in about a million barrels a day. 18 trillion to go a long way. Now, I know we use a lot more oil and stuff, but then how come the government then all of a sudden, and it's mainly on the Democrats, they say, well, we don't want to use that oil because, we don't want to kill the whales. We don't want to kill the long-billed platypuses. I mean, we don't want to kill the sharks, the white tooth shark. They come up with all these different environmental reasons of why we don't want to mine the oil that we have in America. Can I ask why? Could it be because they know and realize that the people who own a lot of the oil in America, they're already rich and they're already just making more money? They're okay with, the Saudi Arabians having their oil, their money, whatever, but the people here. So you have this new level of people who want to look for some money, and energy is where the biggest money is. Like in a country's energy is where you're going to get the most money. So could it be that they want to invent a new energy source where new people can make money and get rich? I'm just asking here. So all the money in the oil industry has been claimed. The families, I don't know if you believe 6 families own a lot or whatever or whatnot, but like, so now we got to go to solar, we got to go to nuclear, we got to go to wind, let's go to battery. So let's create a new industry where more of us can make some money right now because all the oil people, the tycoons, they're already rich. So how do you do this? You create a crisis. The Great Reset, global warming, climate change, it's an existential threat. We're all going to die. We're going to die if we keep using oil. Oh my goodness, we just got to keep the 18 trillion barrels up in Alaska just sitting there because we're going to die. The sky is falling. Create a crisis. And, rational-minded thinking people don't fall for this, but you can tell the kids. Start to get the kids. This is decades ago. I mean, we're talking now, kids are raised to believe, they've been indoctrinated to believe. You look at this Greta Thunberg girl. I mean, from the time the girl was 12, she's going around, we're going to die. And now she's like filthy rich. Because they've used her as a pawn to get other young people like her, passionate, energetic, enthusiastic, idealistic young people who are believing the lie that we're being told that the ice caps are melting, that, it's an existential threat, that we're going to all die, that, what are we doing here? So you create this crisis, and then the U.S. citizens, they believe what the politicians and what the media says, but how do you get other people around the world to buy into this? They don't have access to the media. People in Africa, other people over here. How do you get them to buy it? Well, now you got to start influencing their leaders, their governments, their political leaders, their media. What's USAID doing? Elon's discovered that for us. They're using this slush fund, $50 billion a year, to influence those people in other countries, in Africa, in Albania, in Dominican Republic, in Congo, all over the world. People that don't, because everybody has cell phones, everybody has satellite internet now, and then you use their media, use their politicians, buy out a few people. Let's let Greta Thunberg get rich. Let's let all these government leaders in these other third world countries. We'll give them some money. We'll grease their pockets, and they're going to get rich, so that the new world order, so these other people can make money in the new industry. So they create this giant slush fund. They've hidden it from the U.S. people. This has been going on for a couple decades now. They hide it from us, let a few politicians in on the game. A few of you guys know what we're doing here. And, but let's keep it within ourselves. The establishment, right? Established Democrats and a few Republicans, established people. That's why they hated Trump so much when Trump came on the scene. Remember when he went over to the World Economic Forum and, in Davos, when he tried to give his speech, he's like, look, I don't buy none of this. It's America first. You guys should be doing the same thing. The very next day, George Soros and Klaus Schwab, I don't even know how to say the guy's name. They call a meeting with all the world leaders. They're like, Trump, we can't trust him. We got to get rid of him. He can't win another 2020 election. So they start to put all this money because he was a thorn in their side. He was for the people, and they're like, we got to tear him down. We got to discredit him. We got to make sure he doesn't win. If that doesn't work, we'll use lawfare to keep him off the ballot. If that doesn't work, we will try to assassinate this brother because we don't want the gig to be up. We are trying to create a new industry where we can all get filthy rich and come up with this whole existential threat, climate change, to get the young people passionate on board, to get the ignorant people, let's be real, ignorant people who don't want to pay attention. I'm not saying stupid, but people who are so busy with their kids' events, with trying to just make the ends meet, with getting high and drunk. Yeah, they're keeping us ignorant, and we are willful as a part of this. When are we going to wake up? When are we going to wake up and realize what's going on here? Now, again, this is my purely irresponsible speculation, but I think I might be onto something. So now Trump and Elon Musk, they're outsiders who are going to expose it. So what do? You fight, you obstruct, you lie on them, you do whatever you have to do to try to stop them, because this isn't the way it's supposed to be done. Trump, Elon, not supposed to do it that way. They even got little junior congresswomen a black congresswoman from Texas who, if you say anything about her, we're going to call you racist. She obviously, so don't even discredit her and AOC, because if you say anything about them, it's only because they're a woman of color. They're a woman, first of all, and you're a male chauvinist, and they're a woman of color, and you're a white racist. So the only reason you'd say anything negative about their ideology, their point of view, is because you're a white supremacist racist. So you got this little congressman, Jasmine Crockett of Texas. She's a junior congresswoman. They put her up to try to say, no, this isn't the way we're supposed to go about it. Nope, they're not supposed to expose this. I'm going to play this clip. This is what she had to say.
What do you say to the average American out there who says, look, the government spends too much money, and I just believe that they're not taking seriously enough, the federal government, the waste and the fraud that is out there. And if Elon Musk can find some of it, more power to him.
Yeah, if he could. But first of all, if you're going to find it, then the proper thing to do would be to find it. And then clearly this is an appointee of our Republican president. He should then take his findings to the Republican caucus. Currently, the Republicans control the House, the Senate, as well as the White House. He should have a caucus meeting with them, talk about what his findings are, bring actual documentation versus posting on X and then saying, oh, well, I'm not going to be perfect. Well, what is the point? Honestly, you and your little team of teenagers seem like the biggest waste that we've endured since Donald Trump has sworn in, because we should not be chasing these random stories that are nothing more than propaganda that are designed to infuriate the American people. I understand when people say that they are concerned about our debt, as they should be concerned. But if you really want to look at the problem is probably with the Trump administration. We know that that administration, the last time they were in, ran our debt up an additional $8 trillion, more than anybody else has ever done, and we're not talking about that. So I don't know how they plan to fix it.
So basically, Jasmine Crockett, she's being a useful idiot. She's just going out and trumpeting their stupid message of, oh, well, yeah, well, first of all, it's not the way to do it. Don't expose it to the American people, the taxpayers. You're supposed to do it. What they should do is they should go behind closed doors in their committee, run it up the chain of command so that we can keep hiding what we want to hide. She didn't even know about it, but this is what she's being told to say so that she can continue to move up and gain popularity, get some clicks on TV, so she can continue to get funds coming into her campaign account. See, they're using her. She's a useful idiot. And then she says, well, probably the problem is with Trump. He ran up more debt anyway. Well, that's because we were in a global pandemic. Come on. But they're using people like this. So she's like, if we want to expose waste, fraud, and abuse, don't do it publicly. Go to your caucus. Do it behind closed doors. Okay, yeah. We're going to keep buying that. That's why young people all over X are busting it out. They're going, and they're using bad language too. They're like, F this, these MFers are, I'm shocked at some of the videos. I want to play some of them, but you can't. They are like, these young people are using some colorful language to express that they are not happy with the fact that it's been hidden from them for so long.
Say they trying some Samuel L. Jackson F-bombs,
They are dropping the Samuel L. Jackson. They are in the way of Samuel L. Jackson faux show. And here's the thing. They want us to believe that this is something novel to Trump, that he's the only one that thought of this. Here's another president who laid out his authority to cut wasteful spending. Check out this president who said this 8 or 10 years, 15 years.
One of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. Cutting waste, making government more efficient is something that leaders in both parties have worked on. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative.
That's Obama back in 2011. Obama himself stated he didn't need Congress to cut wasteful government spending. But now they're saying, oh, well, you got to go through Congress. Come on, man. We're not suckers. Just because we're Christians, we're not stupid. That's the issue. They think that we are. They continue to waste our money, and they continue to funnel it to who knows who and who knows when and who knows. More than $100 million in U.S. foreign aid, USAID, was sent to terror-linked organizations. That's a new report. That was a headline right there. U.S. foreign aid programs have dispersed more than $100 million to terror-linked entities since 2007. This according to a multiple-year report released by the Middle East Forum, MEF. That was earlier this month. The lion's share, at least $152 million, came through the USAID, the slush fund. And this is what's happening here. We're not falling for it. This is why DOGE and Elon Musk are so necessary. I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it. That's the bottom line. Hey, man, I got a lot more stuff that I want to cover, but I'm gonna have to cut some of this out. Let me give you this announcement. My mom asked me to give this announcement. 40 Days for Life, March 5th through April 13th. There's an organization doing 40 Days for Life. Help save lives in Springfield. You can protect mothers and children by joining this worldwide mobilization through prayer and fasting, peaceful vigils, and community outreach. 40 Days for Life has inspired 1 million plus volunteers. Here's how to take part. Attend a sign-up event February 22nd. That's here in about 4 days. 1 to 2 p.m. at Life 360 Church. That's over in on the Chesterfield, the Life 360 in Chesterfield, where the old palace is. Or 3 to 4 p.m. at the Library Center, Room B. So 40 Days for Life, we need you. Help save lives. They're going to be praying. They're going to be fasting. These are for you Christian people. Attend one of these mobilization trainings, the sign-up events. Again, February 22nd, 1 to 2 at Life 360 Church, where the old palace is. That's over in Chesterfield. Or at the Library Center from 3 to 4. And then there's another training opportunity as well. February 23rd, 10:30 to 11 a.m. and again 2:30 to 12:30 to 1 p.m. at Calvary Chapel. So basically, they want you to help come, know how to pray, know how to fast, and be a part of the 40 Days for Life. You can also visit 40daysforlife.com. You can sign up for the hour that you want to pray with them. And that's the deal there. It's going to be awesome. We need you. My mom wanted me to do that. She's a part of that. I know the Greene County Republican women, they're doing that. And, of course, Life 360 Church, Calvary Chapel Church, the Library Center, they're doing that. Join them, 40 Days for Life, praying and fasting, help save lives here in Springfield. Man, there's so much that I want to cover. But what I'm going to do, Frizz, I'm kind of cycling through this. I'm gonna take a quick little second transition. Then I'm going to come back with, I will touch on and just give you the top 3 stories. I'm probably going to push them to Thursday if we have a show. I mean, the Snowmageddon's supposed to be coming. And then I'll just kind of end with what people are talking about. But maybe another 5 or 10 minutes. I'm right here on Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant.
Top stories of the day.
I got a few top stories of the day, but we've had such a great jam-packed day. We had an interview with Kelly Byrne, running for Springfield School Board. We had an interview with State Senator Curtis Trent. And then, of course, we had DOGE we got to dive into. I had 3 stories I want to go over. I'm going to maybe push some of them, but one of them is the tariffs that Trump is doing. That's always been talked about. It's going to continue on. I got some thoughts. I'm going to push that to Thursday. We've been talking a little bit about this Social Security anomaly. I'm going to hit on that in just a second, but I got to go to this one. My man Frizz is wearing his St. Louis Blues hockey jersey. And I'm gonna play this little clip here, Frizz. I got some thoughts, but then I'm gonna let you just go take it away, okay? So play this clip about USA Hockey whipping Canada.
They're gonna drop the gloves right away.
Yep. Sam Bennett, Brady Kachuk. What a tilt. What a Miller. And Miller dropped the gloves, and Perico's going to answer. And Perico, the way, speeds Eichel into the zone, flipping it through, scores! Game tied as Team USA has answered. And away goes Larkin, it's a 2-on-1, Larkin scores! Dylan Larkin, and Team USA has the lead. Get down the ice, Larkin with the open net, across to Gensel, scores! Jake Gensel's got his second. And a clincher here for Team USA. That's going to do it. A hard-fought Team USA victory.
Boom. We thumped Canada. Here's what happened. So there's the hockey, the U.S. International, or hockey. USA played Canada. So, yeah, Bunting, you guys got your butts whooped. Nash, yeah, we owned you guys. So, first of all, the Canadians booed the U.S. national anthem. That's jacked up, people. You play the Canadian anthem, we don't boo that, then they boo the national anthem. So then the USA players, they're like, nah, bro, it's not going down. The first 9 seconds, they get into 3 fights. Boom, because they're defending our national anthem. And then we go on to get 3 unanswered goals. We blasted those suckers. We blew them out of the water in their own stadium. America is back. Take that, suckers. Frizz, did I get it all? What do you got to say on that? Like, I want you. Oh, he's back there dancing, dude. Can they see you dancing?
I'm not sure we can even hear this or not, but I got Freebird playing, baby.
Freebird.
The patriotism is flowing through the veins, people. I love it. I do. I love my hockey, and I love my country, baby. 3-1. We put belt to ass to those Canadians, and we did it in their own place. What's up, people? Hockey is North American, and it is a United States sport, not a Canadian sport. Thus the example on Saturday. God, I love hockey, and I love this country. Woo!
I couldn't have asked for any better. I should have just let you do that whole segment. That's hockey. Hockey.
Hockey, yeah.
All right, so let me do this. There's been this, everyone's talking about this all over X, the Social Security anomaly. So Carolyn Levitt, she says that Elon Musk and DOGE, they've been sent to investigate dead people receiving Social Security payments. They said they suspect that there are tens of millions of deceased people receiving fraudulent Social Security payments. Play this clip real fast.
Oh, Lord, if I can find it.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape.
No, we're on topic 2. Yeah, topic 2. I'm skipping around on my guy, Matthew Frizzell. He's killing it over there. We just had his excitement about the hockey. And
I've been fighting fake news reporters all day long here in the Washington, D.C. swamp who are trying to fearmonger the American people into believing that this administration is going after their hard-earned tax dollars and their hard-earned Social Security checks. So I want to set the record straight on your show tonight, Sean, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. President Trump has directed Elon Musk and the DOGE team to identify fraud at the Social Security Administration. They haven't dug into the books yet, but they suspect that there are tens of millions of deceased people who are receiving fraudulent Social Security payments. And so their goal in going into the Social Security Administration is to identify 3 things. Number 1, to identify duplicate payments and to end them. Number 2, to identify payments that are going to deceased people who are no longer living and should no longer be receiving that money. And number 3, to protect the integrity of this system for hardworking Americans who have been paying into it their entire lives. So rest assured to all of the people watching your show tonight, if you paid into the system, honestly, you will continue to receive your Social Security checks. Do not buy into the lies from the legacy fake news media who are trying to fear you and scare you into believing otherwise. This is what we've seen them do about President Trump for years with every promise that he has made. And he's going in there to protect your hard-earned money. That is the ultimate goal.
So, the deal is this. Elon Musk and DOGE, they've discovered that there are 394 million Social Security recipients in the U.S. Stop and think about this, people. There's only 334 million citizens. That's a discrepancy of about 60 million people. Who's getting the money? Who's getting your money that your taxes go to? Because remember, people pay into Social Security, but then, when they retire, when they get to be over age, 55, 65, whatever it is, then your taxpayer is paying for them. That's why they're saying Social Security could be bankrupt in a couple of years, because the younger generation, a lot of them paying their own 401ks. People are opting out of Social Security, not paying as much. But so how in the world is there 394 million Social Security recipients when there's only 334 million people alive that could even qualify for it? According to the Social Security database, they came up with some numbers. These are Elon Musk and his smart little nerds that are there and working in DOGE. These little teenage and 19, 20, 21, 24-year-old little nerds that know how to crunch numbers that Elon Musk has there doing this. So these are numbers of people in each age bracket with the death field set to fall. So, for example, I want you to see this. So people that are receiving Social Security between the ages of 10 and 19, how can those people? Well, if your parents died or whatever, you can get some Social Security number, or if you're disabled, whatever. So you look at this, you got 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39. I mean, you got the numbers here, people. But then just stop and look at this at 100 to 109. You're trying to tell me that there are 4.7 million people in the United States that are alive that are between the ages of 100 and 109 years old? There's 4.7 million that are alive, let alone to receive Social Security payments? That's hard to believe. So then between the ages of 110 years old and 119, there's 3.6 million people that are still alive? What's the world's oldest living person is 114 or something like that documented? So how in the world do we in the United States still have 3.6 million people that are between the ages of 110 and 119 that are alive receiving Social Security checks? Between the ages of 120 and 129, 3.4 million. 130 years old, 3.9 million. 140 to 150 years old, 3.5 million people. How in the world, people? How? This is not the times of Noah, not the times of Moses, where people, Methuselah, who's living, Lamech, all these people no, bro. This is now. How can you look between 150 and older? 150 to 159, they're telling us that 1.3 million people in the United States are alive and receiving Social Security checks. Where's that money going to? Guys, people that are 200, there's 879 people that are 200 to 209 that are receiving Social Security checks. 220 to 229, 1,039. There's one person that's 240 to 249 years old that's receiving money, and another person that's 360 to 369 that's receiving a Social Security check. How long has that person received? Here's the thing. Elon, he says that millions in the Social Security database are between the ages of 100 and 159 that are receiving. Between those two alone, it's 20 million that are living in the United States, 100 years old to 160 that are receiving Social Security checks from your taxpayer money. How? I just don't get it. Stephen Miller, he's on Trump's team. He's one of Trump's advisors. Here's what he had to say about this whole situation.
What are the plans to do so if those records are obtained?
Well, as we know, there's a massive amount of fraud in this country. You have, for example, foreign fraud rings. These are foreign nationals who come into the United States. They use fake Social Security numbers. They use fake identities to steal billions in taxpayer benefits. There's no way to know until DOGE gains full access exactly how much money we're talking about. But over a 10-year normal budget window, you could be talking about saving over $1 trillion by clamping down on massive fraud in our tax and entitlement systems, including, again, those carried out by organized fraud and theft rings. A very important point in all this is to understand that DOGE are subordinate staffers of the federal government. They are political appointees, just like me, just like everyone else in the White House, that serve and answer to the president. So we're not talking about an outside private entity. We're talking about the existing federal staff of the federal government performing their statutory and constitutional duty.
So I mean, Stephen Miller, he's saying it. I mean, he's saying, we're being frauded to the tune of like $1 trillion over a 10-year period, and they're saying that there's evidence that could be foreign nationals that are frauding us. That's a lot of people. Like these, you talk about data breaches. You're talking about, are they able to infiltrate our system? We're talking about how our system's antiquated and how Obama took it to where there's this warehouse like that's in a cave somewhere underneath limestone where they're trying to do hard copy records to see who should qualify. So it's gone back a couple decades. If it goes back to Obama, we've known that there's been this fraud. Why are we upset that Trump asked Elon Musk to oversee alleviating the Wade fraud and abuse? I'm not mad at all. There's a CEO of LexisNexis Special Services. His name's Haywood Talcove. He was testifying in front of the DOGE subcommittee, which, by the way, our very own Congressman Eric Burlison here in Missouri, he's on that one. But he says by implementing a robust ID verification, it could save $1 trillion every single year in entitlements. Here's the things that they're saying. Between federal government, state, and local governments, you can save $1 trillion a year by simply doing these three things. Having front-end identity verification. Guys, have you ever noticed that it takes like 7 different steps to log into your email at work nowadays? I'm just saying, if I have to have 7 different steps to log into my email at Evangel University, then maybe they should have at least 2 or 3 forms of identity, text you this, that, to get our taxpayer dollars. I mean, I'm just saying, kind of makes a little bit of sense, doesn't it? Front-end identity verification. Number 2, eliminating self-certification. And then number 3, monitoring the back end of the programs that are providing the benefits. So you got to have some sort of, you got to be having verification. Like, this is why we need DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. They are out to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. If we can literally save $1 trillion a year, I'm all for it. That's a lot of our taxpayer dollars. We're $36 trillion in debt, people. $36 trillion in debt. We have to have DOGE. Let's embrace it. Let's be all for it. Let's encourage it. Let's support it. Benefit of the doubt and everything in between. So that's the deal there. Hey, I'm going to leave you with this last thing. This is something that people are talking about. And I don't know if you saw this, but Trump was at NASCAR. And I'm going to play a video of the national anthem being sang. Trump went there in Daytona Beach, the Daytona 500. He was there. Now hockey's saying, hey, Trump, we want you to come to a hockey game for the national anthem. He's embodying patriotism. People are loving it. But he went down there. He took his little granddaughter with him. They went to the NASCAR event. They took a ride in the Beast. That's the president limo. And they took a ride around Daytona, speeding around Daytona. And when they played the NASCAR, the whole theme for NASCAR was family. They had all the drivers there with their kids. Some of them had babies in their arms. And they had our military sing the national anthem. And I want you to notice how beautiful it was. And then also notice when Trump came on, the ovation he got. So we'll leave it with this national anthem. And then that'll be the end of Frontline Faith on this Tuesday with Alex Bryant. So take it away, Fritz. This will be the end of our show.
To honor America with the singing of our national anthem, please welcome, from the United States Air Force Band Singing Sergeants, Technical Sergeant Michael J. Aiello.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the